So, living in community is not always fun, but it is beneficial if we use it in the right way. It doesn't always have to be enjoyable, and there's various of us have tasks and responsibilities, and sometimes we're going to get it wrong. We're not always going to get things right, and we don't always have to do things right. And also just to be sensitive to when we see somebody make a mistake or do something wrong, to not point it out right away. That's not the Wapapong way, but to be yielding and to give it time, give it a bit of space and time. And or if we see somebody, say we're, mopping a floor and somebody is in our way, rather than ask them to move, just go around them. That's the Wapapong way. Mop that spot when they move later. So, these are small things, but every single thing we do, every single action is illustrative of where our practice is at. Are we yielding and supportive of others, or are we hard and selfish in various ways? And this is just our actions, our speech, this is all gonna betray where we're actually at. So it's said that no one can lie to a Buddha. And I've pondered that phrase. It's quite a profound phrase, because it's not that somebody can't, because there's a seeming contradiction to that in the Vinaya, where the nun Tulananda lies to the Buddha and he expels her. And I think, I thought you couldn't lie to a Buddha. But actually, you can't. So even if you were to say something untrue to the Buddha knows, the Buddha sees the truth of it. Nobody can lie to him. That their speech and their actions will betray the truth of the situation. And we can't lie to our inner Buddha either. Our inner Buddha knows, even though we may hide certain actions from others, the inner knowing knows. We know, we can't hide it from ourselves. And the knowing is the inner Buddha, so the Buddha always knows what's going on. The Buddha always knows what's happening. And the Buddha isn't judgmental of us. The Buddha isn't some sort of judge judging our actions as right or wrong. But the Buddha is only teaching that something is right because it leads to an ending of suffering. Something is wrong because it leads to more suffering. So if it leads to more suffering, he says it's wrong. And if it leads to less suffering, he says it's right. But it's not a character judgment or a judgment of, he's not making it personal. Suffering is very impersonal. So the Buddha is very compassionate, wants us to be able to end our suffering, but he also leaves it up to us to do that. So living in community can be very beneficial in various ways, but we're going to come up against, difficulties sometimes, and that's just natural. And when we make mistakes and have failures and come up against difficulties, then we can learn from that. And that's how the Buddha learned. The Buddha learned from doing his austerities, and he considered that a failure. That wasn't the way to enlightenment. But he learned from it. He learned that without a doubt, that doesn't work. That doesn't lead to the goal. And he knew about self-indulgence from when he was a prince, and he knew without a doubt that doesn't lead to the goal either. So it's the middle way. So he knew from making those mistakes. And if he didn't make those mistakes, he wouldn't have learned. So we learn from our mistakes, from our failures. And this is very important. So to not condemn ourselves for these things, be very forgiving, non-judgmental of ourselves, and then be able to pick ourselves up and keep going. So leave that for reflection. So.